Hello, fellow NASA HUNCH educators and NASA HUNCH Academy students. My name is Miss Brittany Koger, and I'm going to be walking you through the investigation stations for the Nano insect lab that will be going up into space. So I am very excited about this project because we get to get a little weird and we get to touch some bugs. So I hope you like insects. If insects freak you out, I'm sorry. You're not going to like a lot of what I do today because we are going to get up close and personal with some insects. So hopefully you've watched the introduction and you paid attention to those videos and the slides and you read all that information and why we are looking at sending bugs into space. So we're not only looking at sending bugs into space for like cleaning up and things like that, but we're looking at them as a food source. And I know that freaks a lot of Americans out because it is not common for Americans to eat bugs. But in other countries, bugs are delicacies. I mean, they eat snails, they eat grubworms, they eat spiders, ants, scorpions, mealworms, all kinds of different worms. Worms are very good protein. And I know it sounds weird, but crickets, okay? Crickets are a really good one, and I got some crickets here today. So I'm a weird teacher. I have a class pet. I have a turtle, so I am used to getting worms and crickets and stuff for her to eat. So I have those in my classroom. Next year, I am going to be growing crickets and mealworms in my classroom, and we're going to be paying attention to those and how they grow in their life with my second graders. So if you have second graders, you can even go into bug lifestyles all the way down to second grade. So this is just something to keep in mind that we have these options available to us. So you're going to need some types of bugs. If you do not like live or dead bugs, they have bugs in resin on Amazon or in plastic on Amazon that you can order. You could even just Google life-size photos of bugs and print them out and make sure they're actual size and just measure the paper. But this is a weight and measurement station. All of our NASA HUNCH Academy projects have a weight and measurement part because weight and measurement is a big part of engineering. How are you going to know how to get your build the right size if you don't know about sizes, if you don't know weight and measurement? And it costs a lot of money to send material up into space. If we're going to the moon, it costs $1.2 million per pound. So it's a little bit less than that for the International Space Station, but it's not much less. So we want all of our designs to be very lightweight. So we've got to know the weight and the measurement of these bugs and of our insect nanolab size. It's a very small container that they do the nanolabs in. It goes in like a rack, so it's kind of like a locker. I have a little cricket container here. Again, I'm one of those teachers that has live bugs in my room. There's a cricket right there. I got a live one. I have some dead ones in here too. So I found some just dried up dead bugs around. I bought a couple of dead bugs. You can go to any bait shop, any pet store, Walmart, places like that. They would have these. Or you can just buy some fake bugs off Amazon or the ones already in resin off Amazon. But you are going to need some rulers because we've got to measure. And I went into a measurement lesson teaching my students how many marks are from 0 to 1. There are 16 marks in between each inch. And we went to equivalent fractions, and fractions are pieces of a whole. And we did a whole measurement lesson, and I talked about how to use a ruler correctly. I use inches because I'm here in the United States. If you're in other countries, you would use millimeters. You know, whatever you have available to you is what you would use. So I just have some classroom rulers, and I gave each student a ruler. You can break them into groups. You could do this whole group. You could do this small group or individual. It is completely up to you and what you have available to you. NASA HUNCH Academy is meant to be done at your leisure and however you can fit it into your schedule. But we do have lots of science and math standards that we go into and engineering standards that we go into during our projects. So we're going to get into it. So after we learned how to read a ruler, I also taught them how to read a scale. And I have some scales. I have some digital scales. I have some kitchen scales, some bathroom scales, the dreaded bathroom scale. So I have several different scales. The kitchen scale, the digital scale was probably one of my favorites. You're going to probably have to break it down into grams. And you can even do a lesson transferring grams into ounces, ounces into pounds, inches into feet, millimeters into inches, all of that. You can go into math lessons with this. So take as much time into measurement as it takes to get your students to understand it. Then you're going to get some bugs of some size or some type, either whether you printed them out or you ordered them or you went outside and found bugs, whatever you did to get bugs. And then we're going to weigh and measure. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did this with my students. So I put all of our projects in Tinkercad, which is a CAD program that works with 3D printers. Our end goal is to 3D print our design. If you don't have 3D printers, you can still download Tinkercad. It is a free program, and it is set up for educators. It is super easy to use. You can Google lessons. There's all kinds of stuff on YouTube on how to use it. So at the end, we're going to be doing that, putting all of our measurements in there. So here are the things that we have to worry about in this station is how big each bug is. I would choose several bugs that you know would be good sources of food. I chose the scorpion, and I know you get people in the Midwest are going to laugh at my little itty bitty scorpion. Oh, I just broke his tail. Oh no, I'm going to have to put that back together. You're going to laugh at my little itty bitty scorpion because he's small, and I understand that. Y'all have big scorpions that scare me to death, but I have what I have. And this guy was found in my house, and of course, we had him killed, and I saved him, and I kept him here. I was like, you know what? I'm going to use him for this investigation station. So I have a mealworm, a cricket, and a scorpion, and I'm going to show you quickly kind of how I do that. I'm going to let this zoom into my hands, and I'm going to show you exactly what I did with my students. Okay? All right, so grab your ruler, and let's get started. See if it will go down here to my hands. All right. So now you can kind of see my bugs. I'm going to push these two to the side, and I'm going to get my cricket here, and I'm going to flip my cricket over, and we're going to measure him. And I'm going to kind of lay him out flat to where I can see. I always tell my students put his head at 0 and then go down to the end of his legs. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see right here my cricket. Okay. So crickets are all going to be different sizes. So I'm going to tell you what mine is. It is 1 1/4 of an inch, maybe just a little bit further than 1/4 of an inch with that little end thing. And depending on what type of cricket you have, it may be longer than that. So we do length, all right, and then we would type that in the slideshow, the next slideshow. Then we're going to turn my ruler this way, and we're going to do the width, and I kind of pushed his legs up there and see from his leg down. We're a little bit more than a 1/2 inch, but not quite to 1/4 of an inch. So we've got a half. Okay, so that would be 10/16 of an inch there. And then we're going to do his height. We're going to see how tall he stands up here, and I pushed his leg up. He is about a 1/2 of an inch tall. And you're going to do the same thing with your scorpion or whatever other ones you got. My mealworm, you're going to measure those. And then you're also going to weigh them. Put them on your scale and weigh them. And some of these are going to be very lightweight. It says this one's not even a gram. One mealworm's not even a gram. My cricket right here, let's see. My cricket is 1 gram. All right. My scorpion, let's see, not even a gram. So I might have to go to a less measurement here on my scale. Either way, whatever works for you is what we want you to do. Whatever works. Again, just do it however you can. But we got to know these measurements in order to make our habitat. And if we have only a certain size, we got to know how many of these bugs we could fit in that habitat. So if these crickets are this big, and this is a full-grown cricket, I'm going off a brown cricket, you got to know how many of these we could fit in our Nanolab. How many of these would be able to survive together and fit in the space that we have? Because it's not a very big space. Now, mealworms, look how small that mealworm is. I can barely even grab that guy there. So mealworms are super small. You can have a lot of them. In this little container right here, there's 100 of them in this container. And you got to think about how are we going to keep these guys alive? What do they need to survive? And if you bought mealworms for your animals, if you have a reptile, I bought these. There are 100 of them in there. Look at that, moving around. And they're in this material that they can live off of. Like it keeps them alive. They eat in this. It's got enough moisture in there to keep them alive. And mealworms actually can be cooler than most other ones. So we're going to do some research on these bugs. After we do our weight and measurement, we're going to do a whole station of just researching. What does it take to keep these bugs alive? What temperature can they live in? All of those questions are the questions that we're going to answer in our next investigation station. And then we have another one where we're going to be tasting some bugs, some bug tastings. I'm excited about that one. Now, you don't have to do it. You can skip it. I understand some people are freaked out by bugs. But we've got to start thinking like astronauts and thinking about how we're going to supply our astronauts and our people in space with food. You know, it costs a lot of money to keep sending stuff up there. So we want to be able to grow our food up in space. And we got to think about bugs because they're protein and they're a good source of protein. And I'm sure you could cook them to where they taste good. And I can't wait to try. So I hope you guys had fun with this investigation station. Like I said, weigh and measure as many bugs as you can. If you just got to print them out and do that, do it however you can. This is meant to be done at your leisure and however you need to. Spend as much time and weight as measurement as you can. Fill in those slides, and I can't wait to see you at the next one. Bye, guys.